All righty, well, let's get started. So today we're going to be talking about digital dashboards. My name is Michael Chave. I am a senior AEC technical specialist here at ATG USA. My primary background is in instructional design. I am a Bluebeam certified instructor as well. Some of you may know me from the morning coffee review or listen to some of my quick tip videos that we have on YouTube or read some of the blogs. We also have the white papers. Maybe that's where you've heard me from, or I guess listened to me from, or some of my past webinars as well. We'll be covering digital dashboards primarily today. This isn't like the morning coffee review where we get to go off tangent. So please keep your questions more pertaining to things that we talk about in digital dashboards specifically. That'll help me out so then we don't have to worry about going off on the side tangents about anything pertaining to Bluebeam. Save those questions for the morning coffee review area. So description, projects have hundreds or even thousands of documents, so why not give your team and or client a better way to navigate them? We're going to remove that old file structure that we've always gone through and navigated through through Windows Explorer, or even through any other storage system that you're utilizing for your storage of documents, where they have to go through a folder, through a subfolder, through another folder to navigate to the specific PDF that they're looking for. We're going to rejuvenate that workflow by using digital dashboards. And what are digital dashboards? Some folks might ask as well, because they may have never seen one. So we'll go through and show you how useful digital dashboards can be utilized. Now, my primary method for creating digital dashboards is going to be completely around studio projects. I prefer projects because you don't have to worry about something being locally stored and having access to that locally stored area when you're maybe out in the field, or maybe you're sharing with an external party who doesn't have access to your local server as well. Even if it's not on-prem, maybe it's in the cloud, you're using some kind of hybrid like Panzura, they just don't have access to those documents. So what are we going to be covering today? What is a digital dashboard? We'll go over and talk about creating the basics of a digital dashboard. We'll discover rules and best practices. We'll also use studio projects with your digital dashboard, and that's actually how I will start out my digital dashboard. Now, dashboards offer you a new way to look. Now, the digital dashboard will be an example of what I've currently done, and one that is more of a training that a lot of us use as well. So we'll go through that one first, then we'll go over one through that I've created. And I'll also show you some other ways you can use them. We have one for internal purposes, getting internal documents, creating an easier access to documents instead of that old file explorer through a subfolder. You have to send them the drive location of where that file is. So let's talk about it. We're gonna go right into review. I don't believe in death by PowerPoint. This PowerPoint was just to kind of get us ready to go into review. So let's hop right in. I have review open. Now, a digital dashboard, actually, let me just open one up that doesn't link to anything yet. Well, actually, let's show a full example of what one would be. So let's go from here. I'm going to go into Studio. I'm going to open this one up, not this one, because this one has links that aren't completely flattened yet. But a digital dashboard, instead of having to go through your native file explorer to navigate to files, let me just open up Windows Explorer here. Instead of having to go through and navigate through your native file explorer, if I could drag it over, and have to look through where things are at, is there an easier way to grab some of these documents than we're natively used to? There is, through digital dashboards. It's seen as a PDF. Now, there's two ways to create your outline for your digital dashboard. You can either create it directly from within Review using PDFs. The other way to create them is using PowerPoint if you're looking for more of a visual effect. Now, I've done that with some of my other documents, which we'll show for more internal purposes. But this one right here was completely made from markups in Review. Now, digital dashboards, again, so you don't have to navigate through your file structure of looking through embedded subfolders, trying to navigate through these files to find where people stored things. You have more of a visual, aesthetically pleasing interface to navigate through files. Now, this is the home page. I can then say, hey, I want to look at my RFIs. So I can click on my RFIs. And then from here, I can say, hey, you know what? I want to look at RFI 100 through 149. From there, it actually opens up. This was stored in a studio project, which again, I prefer this method because then everyone has access to them wherever they are at location-wise. And then they can say, hey, I want to open up RFI 101. I can say, okay. And it's going to open up that RFI. I can go through and see this RFI and maybe what updates have been made to it or what is the RFI overall. I can even go back to home. I can say, hey, let's look up some submittals here. I can go and see if I have any submittals, maybe electrical submittals, and I don't. Maybe I want to go and look up some drawings, architectural sheets. Maybe I want to look up the wall sections here, and let me look at this enlarged plan. So now I don't have to worry about going through and trying to communicate this to project partners, right? So maybe I'm out in the field communicating with the con team, and they're trying to navigate through our files. I don't have to say it's in this subfolder here specifically for you. They can easily navigate through a visual interface to navigate through their files. I can even go to the site plans if I wanted to, or maybe I wanted to check the weather on the site before I head out. Revu does have a search engine enabled in it. So this actually brings me to the search engine of where it's at, so I can see the weather from here as well. I can even say, hey, let's go look at the phone list. And there's a phone list at one of the back of the PDFs here. I can see I'm on page 7 of 7. And now I can get quick access to call somebody if I need to. Now, this is also great to handing over to the project owner. Maybe they don't have an easy way to navigate through files. They can easily navigate them through this lovely little interface that you can create for them. You can also have flyouts. Now, these are buttons that are programmed with JavaScripting behind them. Have flyouts specifically to different things that you want to enable to click selections for them. Now, this is what a digital dashboard is. Does anyone have any questions about the specific overview of what a digital dashboard is? Let me bring up my chat area. Give it a couple seconds. Feel free to ask any questions you have. Then we will go over on how would we create one of these. Again, this can be for a specific project. I can open one up that we have for internal use for specific things that we need to gain access to. This is one I actually created directly from PowerPoint. Now, the downside to PowerPoint is it sees it as one singular item, so it's not easy to recreate buttons for here to select from. So what you have to do is create a text box, which I'll talk about in a second. That will then be your action. So maybe I want to go through and look at maybe my training outlines or my data sets. I can easily just click home, say, hey, I want to look at my architectural data sets. And from here, it's going to pop open my data sets here. Maybe I want to open up this door schedule, which is the data set, just to gain access to some of the information from here as well. Now, how does Studio Projects work well, or why does it work well, so well with our digital dashboards? Now, I can even come into here and check this out. Now, Studio Projects is free with any version of Revu. It has unlimited storage for any file type you want. Now, specifically for PDF, since Revu works on PDFs, I can actually check this PDF out like a book. It is locked currently because no one has it checked out, but I could check it out, work on it, and check it back in. And the next person that navigates to this door schedule, they will then see an updated PDF. Now, your next question may be, well, hey, Mike, can someone else access this PDF when I have it open? You actually can in Studio Projects. Now, natively in Windows, it's file locked for specific users, and those specific users can't gain access to it if someone else has it open. The great thing about Studio Projects is multiple people can have it open, but only one person can have it checked out to work on it. They can, however, update the server copy. So if someone is looking at it and they want to see an update of what you just currently did, you can update the server copy, which will then update theirs while they're looking at it as well. So I like to use Studio Projects for mine. I've worked with a couple clients that have used Drive, where they link things to Drive documents as well. Let's go over how could we create one. So I'm going to open up one that I've created before. Let's see here. Here's the process one. Oops, not that one. Let me go to here. Wrong one. If I remember which one I had open, let me just go file open it. Let's go to here. Give me 1 second. Feel free to ask any questions if you do have any. And open this one. Great. So currently I have one open. It actually has 7 pages to it. You can go through and see what I've done so far for this dashboard. Now, the way to start creating the dashboard, I'll actually grab this first page here, and I'll show you what I've done. These are actual comments here, so a text box that has been created, and it has a fill color of a background. Now, this will actually become my action button to open to something. So let's go through and create one for a studio project. I would go from here, go into Studio. Now, if you've never logged into Studio before in any of your Bluebeam review, you just have to go and locate it. It is a panel. You can right click, say show, and from there go to Studio. And then once you go to Studio, it'll ask you to log in. If you haven't logged in, you create an account, but then you can go up here and hit add. I'm going to say new project. I'm just going to name it dashboard, web, and R here. Oops. And I'm going to hit OK. I'm actually going to save this to here. So in order to grab something, all you have to do is drag and drop files directly into here. It's completely up to you on how you do it. You could grab from here as well and just say, I want to locate that file. I'm just going to drag and drop. I prefer the drag and drop method. And it's going to add the dashboard. Now you will need to add files. Oops, and drag it over to here so that things can link to them as well. So in order to do that, you need to navigate to wherever your file structure is going to be. And the great thing is you can actually go through and create a folder structure specific to them so that you don't have to worry about navigating to specific items. So I've already done that. All you have to do is say, hey, you know what? I want a folder structure so it has dropdowns and subfolders within subfolders that you can go through. So you can just create a new folder here. I created one called a dashboard template, added some ARC, Civil, MEP. Maybe let's add some RFIs here. And within the RFI folder, I want to add some subfolders like RFI 0 to what we'll do 49. Oops, if I spell that correctly. RFI, boom. Maybe I want another subfolder, RFI. We'll do 50 to 100. Actually, it's 99. And then we'll do another one with RFI. We'll do 100 to 199. It's completely up to you on what you have within them. And then from there, you can start adding in your new PDFs. I prefer, whenever I create a dashboard, to jump to a folder versus a singular PDF, because if that PDF gets updated or renamed, the link may be broken to that specific area. But now that I've created my outline of how I want things to look in terms of folder structure wise, I can actually go to the hierarchy of the project. And then from here, I can just locate this file structure that I have, drag and drop, and it'll actually upload all of those file structures specific to it. So now I can see dashboard template. Here's my ARC, Civil, MEP. I can hit drop downs and there's my sheets, RFIs. They're starting to be added. And just like that, I start having my folder structure within the studio project. I can then go to my digital dashboard, and it is in a project, so I can't actually work on it yet because it's locked. So if you remember me talking about it a little bit earlier, you can't work on a PDF. It is if it's in a studio project, unless you check it out. You can look at it, but you can't actually work on it until you check it out like a book. So all I have to do here is hit the lock button. I can say check out. And now I can start working on it as I would regularly marking up a PDF set. Now, in order for you to create things or links to things, you need to create a markup. So I'm actually going to go through and we will delete this submittals one and I will create a new one. So from here, I created outlines of boxes for me to select from. They are grouped together, make it easier for me to copy from. Now these outlines are just enabling me to actually drag the full scale of wherever it is from here to here, like this. And it snaps to that location. And then from here, actually, I forget what I named it. So we will copy this and submittal, do apostrophe. Well, actually, we'll just do submittal. That's it. We'll do copy. I will go through and delete this one. I will then add a new one here like this and type in the name. And you can edit whatever the text is you need it to be. So I can change the size. You can actually format Painter, an existing one, if you wanted to. That's also a great way. So you can easily select an existing markup that you've created, and you can say Format Painter or Control-Shift C, and then you can change one that's already existing. I am then going to modify the location of the text if I wanted to. So I can say it's supposed to be centered, and there we go. Now that's creating the specific markup that will be clickable to a location. Let's actually go and check out the RFI pages. So I have RFIs over here. So then from here, I can say, hey, you know what? This RFI is supposed to jump to there. I can say right click and I can create what we call an action. So you edit the action of that specific markup. And from here, I select hyperlink. Oh, sorry, open, not hyperlink. I apologize, open. And then you get to hit the 3 dots symbol and you're going to open it to somewhere. Now, natively, you don't have this first window that pops up. That is actually a preference you need to set if you're trying to open things from a studio project. Otherwise, it'll show you this folder, which is where you're natively storing things locally. So what you need to do is go to Review, Preferences, and you actually have to have a setting that is selected, and that is this one here. It needs to be dechecked. It is open and save files to Studio from toolbar only. So you need to deselect it so that you have the ability to open it from that area. So that is one setting. You might want to write that down or take a quick screenshot. You need to have this specific one deselected for you to activate Studio projects for a selection of something. Go back to here, edit action. I'm going to open up something. Now, again, I prefer to open up to a folder because if the PDF gets changed, deleted, or updated, the link may not hold true anymore. So I'm going to open up to a specific folder. So I'm going to open up from here. I'm going to go to my dashboard template here. Now, if this wasn't the right location, maybe it was in a different studio project, you can easily select this button here. And this shows you all of your studio projects that you have available. We have the dashboard webinar, and I wanted to go somewhere in this subfolder here. I wanted to go to the RFIs here, and I want to go to 0 to 149. And this is where I want to open it to. Now, if it were to open up to a singular PDF, you know it's not going to change and you want it to open up directly. You also have this option down here which says checkout on open, which will automatically check out the document when someone selects it to open it. Just be aware they have to check it back in for someone else to check it out and work on it as well. Now, if you're the owner of the studio project, though, you can revoke the checkout that someone has as well. So then I'm going to say, great, this is the one I'm going to open. Oops. I'm going to go back. I apologize. I clicked in. And again, at any point, feel free to ask any questions you have from here as well. I apologize. I want to open folder, not file. So make sure you say open folder. from project, RFI, and select folder, hit OK. So now you have this action. Now this is what you're doing when you're first starting out, when creating your specific ones. Oops, I see questions coming up. I haven't even checked them. Okay, so Nathan, let's see. Can you determine who has access to which folders? So maybe certain folders could be hidden from certain people or only viewable for certain people. Yes, you actually can, Nathan. I don't know. I haven't tested it yet, Nathan, for specific access rights within studio projects. That would be a great question, because I don't know if you do click the action, if they don't have access to it, that they just don't get access to it, because I know you can hide them from being visually seen in here as well. That's done in the project settings. So there's 3 drawbars here. Once you click this, you do have folder permissions over here. Now, I always prefer to create specific groups, and you can do that by going down to here where the gear symbol is, and there's 3 people, and you can create what we call groups. Now that limits specific users that you add for those groups. So they can only do certain things. Now you say all attendees, this is specific to all attendees. Once you hit this drop down, you have specific rights for those. So project root, meaning all, everyone can only read. So all attendees can only open up a PDF, they cannot check it out. But you do have some additional settings, such as read and write, read, write, and delete. Or maybe, hey, some of these people shouldn't be able to see the MEP. Great, all you have to do is say hidden. If you say inherit from parent, the parent being the project root for the MEP would be from here. Well, actually, sorry, no, the parent for the MEP would be the dashboard template, which is inheriting from the parent as read. So you have different settings and capabilities for specific items in here. I don't know, I haven't tested it on how it would work for the link method though. If it's linked, can they still open it to something that may be hidden for them? That'd be a good question to try out. Yep. Next one would be from Adam. How can you utilize the full live collaboration similar to studio sessions in the dashboard? You wouldn't be able to use that in a studio sessions. You can, however, move a studio project PDF into a session. So it wouldn't be within the dashboard itself, Adam, but you can create a PDF and bring it into a studio session. So let me add a PDF before we go into here. I'm gonna undo checkout. Let me add a PDF into the RFIs here. Well, let me add into the ARC, and let me add a sheet into here real quick. I keep dragging things up. So let me go into here. So I will go into Sheets. I will drag and drop this one over to here. So what you can do is from here, you can right click on your PDF and add to a new session. If there was already a session created specific to dashboard webinar project, you would have a sub one here that says add to the current one. Now this will create a studio session for this PDF, and any other ones, once you've created one, you can then add them. Once you close out the session, is what it does, it checks out the PDF, puts it into the session. And then once you're done with the session, meaning you close it out, you finish it, it'll then check them back in to your studio project. So hopefully that answers your question, Adam, that you had. If you need more clarity, feel free to ask as well. Okay. Goes back out of this, to this one, go back into this webinar one here. Great. So best practices are to actually start out with, let me check it out. You can revoke checkout if you want to see what that looks like. Usually when someone has something checked out, you'll see the same thing in your studio project, the circle with the paper and the check. Once you hover over it, I had this one checked out, but you would see someone else had it checked out. You would see their email address here and you can ping them and say, hey, and if you were the owner, you could right click and say revoke checkout for the specific person that has it checked out already. But from the thumbnails of this PDF here, what you need to do is you need to start out with a generic item. So I'm just going to go back to this one. I'm going to delete things. And how this one was created was pretty generic out the back. All I did was create little outlines. So I'm going to go through and delete them. And the great thing that we all know about Revu also is that you can start saving these. Let me just selection here. Oh, it wants me to keep grabbing things. I just want to make sure I have everything deleted. We'll just move this, delete this, delete that, delete this. Now I started out with a PDF, whatever size you want to start out with. Then I just started creating filled items like a rectangle here, right? So I went through and said, hey, let me create a rectangle. Maybe I want the same color outline with this color outline from here. You can even go through when you're creating new colors, you can grab colors from something. So as you see, I can go through and grab specific colors. I wanted to organize my colors to the graphic image that I had. And you can just click the color that you want to add as well from those. So you can go through and say, hey, and in my bottom right over here, you'll see this start to update from the color splotch of what it's going to look like. Then you can start stretching these around, creating your borders. I can add another one right here as well. Then you can start adding any text you wanted to. Start changing whatever the font. But once you start having these or moving these around, these actually save as markups, right? You can right click, you can say add to tool chest. I'm going to add it to my tools, because then what you can do is when I go back to this first one up here, I can actually go through and reuse these ones that I've made before. So you can reuse markups that you've done, save them in a tool set to reuse these as you move forward to create new dashboards. But what you want to do is create a dashboard outline. Once you've done one PDF, you can easily go through and say, hey, I've created this PDF outline here. All you have to do is right click and say copy. You can copy page. And then from there, you can paste it forever how many pages you wanted below. Now, I did mine with just the title from here and below. So I actually went through and deleted all of these. This is how my PDF started. And then I right clicked and said copy pages. And for however many pages I wanted to have, I just started pasting them. And as I started to paste these out, I then decided, okay, so this one is going to be opening up from drawings. So which drawings do I need to list below? And I started creating outlines of rectangles that had selections. This was just so I can reorganize the way things look. So I can say, hey, these two here. And you know what? These two, these three need to have an alignment of maybe the middle. Oops, well, not the middle of these markups, but go back to here. This alignment tool is a great tool to use as well. So you can say distribute vertically. So now these have evenly distributed vertically for themselves. I can then grab these and move them where they need to go. I can then right click and say group. I can copy this one over, grab all three of these. If I hold shift, not control. And then from here, I can say, hey, alignments again. And I can say we're going to distribute horizontally. And look at that. They're all three aligned horizontally on the page. So that's another way, quick tip, by the way. This alignment tool is great horizontally and vertically for getting things aligned on the page. So you're not trying to play Tetris, which is never fun, to organize things, right? So then from here, like I was saying earlier, you can go through and then create your text box that you want. This one's going to have an outline of maybe gray. I can then come in and say the same fill color for gray as well. And then I can say whatever this is going to be, like structural. Change my text size if I wanted to maybe 26. And not from red to maybe white. And then my style is going to be center. And my text is also going to be center. And you can change these so these weren't red. You could have made them white. And you can still snap to them as well. Ed, is there a positioning grid that you can apply during the dashboard layout? Yeah, so you can always have grids enabled, like a grid layout. So if you go to preferences here, you can say grids and snap, and you can say show grid. That'll give you the ability to have a grid when you're going through and making them. But the alignment command is huge. So it also helps you to align things to that specific PDF. So you could show the grid like this to help you organize it and then deselect the grid. So you don't have things that are not aligned and you're like, hey, Mike, this is a huge space here from here to here. Why did you do that? So that's another one, Ed, as well, that you could use to help you out with that. But once you do that, you can right click again, like I was saying, you can then say edit action, then you can go to somewhere. You could also use a hyperlink. Now, once you've added the action though, you're not done yet. So even though you've added the action here, you're going to somewhere, you're gonna open up a folder, you're gonna navigate to your studio project, it's gonna be in here, it's gonna be in here, I want that folder, great. Oops, should have been structural, but you have the Thunderbolt. That's great for you. You want people to just click the button here so it jumps them to somewhere, right? You need to flatten it once you're done. So once you're done with everything, I'm just gonna flatten this singular one. So I'm right clicking. From here, I'm then gonna say flatten. And what happens is that link now goes away as a sub action for the comment or the markup. And now what I can do is I can click that and it brings it open to somewhere. This also does the same thing if you're trying to go to like the drawings page. All you have to do is right click, you can say edit action, and you're gonna jump to somewhere, right? Maybe a page. Maybe you're gonna jump to, let's jump to page, what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Let's jump to 9 here. So then what happens from there, you click it, it jumps to your page 9. And that same hyperlink feature that we talked about before, if you weren't going to be using a project, but maybe let's say Drive, you can also do the edit the action, and you can go to a hyperlink of a Drive location. Like Google Drive is what I'm saying. Anyone have any questions or any more questions in specific to how to create a dashboard? Other things that are inserted are like images. So you can easily go in and insert an image. You can do that by going to the image command or I. You can then go and grab an image if you have one, like the morning coffee review. I can go in and drag it. Now it's important to have things like the draw order. So you can right click on items that are being placed and you can send it to the back so that things can come forward on top of whatever it is as well. If it's more of a graphics like your logo or something. So you have that ability to right click on something that's been added. You have the order and you can select the draw order. So it's always best to create a beginning point like this first top part, then copy however many pages you're going to have, such as going to a drawings tab that then has structural, architectural, mechanical, electrical, plumbing. And from there, that opens maybe the folder that's a subfolder within something. Does that make sense to everybody? Alrighty. Any more questions pertaining to a dashboard? Alrighty, so these other ones are icons too. So they're just snippets of an image that were brought in. Images can also right click and have an edit action, which can jump to something as well if you wanted to do that. Now, drop downs like this are actually created from a button. So if you've used forms before, you can go through and create a button that brings you somewhere. Now these buttons have settings within them. So if you select the button that was created, if you go to the properties of it and you scroll down, you can actually add a JavaScript that opens up or selects that button. Now these buttons are controlled by the JavaScript. I can send you this JavaScript here. This will be in the chat. Now this JavaScript here is actually opening up a layer. So believe it or not, this whole thing here is on its own layer. And then that button is saying turn off layer or not turn off layer. So let me exit out because I'm in the command of form still. So you'll see this when I select it, the layer actually gets turned off. So the button itself, when clicked, which is a form selection, is using the JavaScript to tell the software to disenable this layer or to enable this layer as well. The phone list that I had earlier as well was just an image from a snippet. So you can create snapshots. You can open up the item that you have. You can then go back to where somewhere else is. And you can then paste that to where you need to be as well. Now this is seen as one singular item, so I can't click all of these to reuse them. So be aware of that too. Alrighty, close out of this. Do we have any more questions pertaining to studio projects? Let me show you what it looks like when someone has something checked out. I have a file share here. Someone has a PDF checked out. If I want to revoke their access to that file, all I have to do here is go, and you can see there's also a session created. So these are in a session. But I can go to my sets here. I can hover over this one. Maybe I undid my checkout. Oh, nope, here it is. So under sets, you'll see this little human when it's not you that has it checked out, and it says who it's checked out by. And what you can do is you can right click and you'll see revoke checkout. So if someone checked it out and is working on it, you can say, hey, nope, give it back to me. I'm the owner. But you have to be the creator of the studio project. So again, this can be for an actual full project, trying to navigate through thousands of files, or it could just be maybe for internal training, right? We need to go through and create an easier way for our end users or our colleagues to navigate through files that they need to learn more about company procedure. And they can easily do that through a dashboard as well. So I will repost my dashboard white paper in the chat here. So feel free to give that a download as well. That gives a more detailed view of how to create digital dashboards. We'll hop back over to my PowerPoint here. Thank you for your time. I know your time is valuable. This webinar is now complete. A recording will be sent out. This is a time for an open Q&A. If you need to download a version of Revu, feel free to download a trial. My name is Michael Chave. I'm a senior AEC technical specialist. Feel free to check out my LinkedIn for any quick tips, maybe some updates or things that I post as well. I will leave it open for a couple questions. Feel free to ask any questions you have. Now, this can be off tangent from this time. If you have any questions, anything about Bluebeam, feel free to ask. If not, I hope you all have a wonderful weekend coming up here. And thank you for tuning in.